West Philadelphia's Mantua neighborhood sits just a few blocks from some of the fastest change in the city. New construction rises where older row homes used to blend into the block. Longtime residents talk about rent increases in the same breath as they talk about neighbors they've known for decades. In neighborhoods like Mantua and countless across the United States, housing stability has become harder to assume. Housing is often framed as an economic problem, or a zoning problem, or a development problem. But it's also a health problem, one in need of creative solutions. From Drexel University's Antoinette Westphal College of Media Arts and Design, this is Iterations, a podcast about creativity, design, and the ideas that emerge when disciplines collide. I'm Laurel Hostak-Jones. Today, we're exploring home, the built environment, with architect and social scientist D.S. Nicholas.
What I try to do is create health supportive spaces and places for people. Right now, we're focused on aging and aging in place, but in the past, the lab has focused on things such as neurodiversity and housing insecurity, food insecurity, and we still have some interest in that as a part of our drive right now to be designing and creating services, spaces, and places for people as they age.
Dee is the founding director of Drexel's Master's Program in Design, which celebrates its 10th anniversary this year. The program, originally called Design Research, was co-founded with interim dean Deborah Rubin.
The reason it was called the Design Research Program is because it actually evolved from the idea that design really requires an evidence base, a basis in participation and what people are doing, what people are thinking, and how they're living their lives as a part of one of the drivers of design. It's very interdisciplinary. It draws on anybody who is in the design world wanting to change how they're approaching design to be focused on an evidence-based process. There's many different ways that evidence or research can drive design. In a day-to-day practice, it's actually about having conversations and being boots on the ground. So you go out, you are part of a community, or you're in a space, or you're experimenting with technology and talking to people about it. A lot of times people will say to me, "Oh, you're so creative." And what they don't understand is that the creativity actually comes from having immersed myself in the information and in the techniques and in the things that I'm supposedly being creative with. I actually am somebody that just observes and understands and thinks about things a lot. I do a lot of research. And so what seems like creativity when you see somebody like for the first 5 minutes is actually them in a lifelong trajectory of exploring and researching. There's also the idea that even when you see somebody who's making art, they're actually researching in that area to drive what they're making. One of the ways that they're exploring that research is through making. So there's making, there's researching people, there's researching places, there's exploring technology. Those are all ways that we bring research into design.
Okay, there's a term that comes up a lot in design circles. I hear it all the time here at Drexel, and that's design thinking. I asked Dee to break it down for us in easy-to-digest terms because it's so foundational to her work and her approach to education.
Well, it's interesting because I think a lot of designers don't love the term, but I think it's a really important way of describing how designers think creatively and kind of disseminating that and making it a little more available to everybody. But I think it's also a way of describing how creative thinking is really a way of training yourself. It's a learning tool more than an actual way of being, right? So you can teach people to be creative if you use design thinking as a way of doing that. It's not the only way to teach people to be creative, but it's a really good way to spread creativity. So there was a movement in the 60s called the design science movement. And what they wanted to do was to scientize design process, to think about it as a standardized process that people could that anybody could engage with or that many people could engage with. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that design is a standard process and that you don't have to be like the most talented thinker or maker to be creative. And so for me, that's part of what design thinking brings. I think it's a really important tool for teaching people about creativity.
Dee realized early in her career that her interest in design for the built environment went beyond the commercial.
I was working in a firm and I would always get really interested in the people that we were designing for. And I kind of didn't really care that much about the building. I would be like, but so-and-so says this and this person wants that. And, almost to the point where my bosses would kind of get a little irritated with me because they wanted me to focus on like the building and not so much on the conversations. So that started to orient me towards the human aspects a lot more. Architects are focused on human aspects, but because you're also wrestling with a complex building, you have to at a certain point say, well, it's going to be this way, right? And I never really wanted to do that. I wanted to continue to think about the people. I also have a creative background. I make a lot of art and I make a lot of installation art. I was experimenting a lot with reused materials, reusable materials, recycled materials. I was doing that with students and I was doing it in my practice and I was doing it as a fine artist. When Katrina happened in 2005, Hurricane Katrina, I was actually sitting in a pocket park in Old City as part of the Fringe Festival with a sound installation that I'd created with my husband. I'd made the installation out of little plastic boxes and coffee filters and stuff. And I started to really think about the health implications of my practice and the health implications of space. I'd always been interested in health, but I'd never really put it together with design. But I'm sitting in this pocket park with this art installation that I've created, watching people come in and go out and hearing all this news about people's homes being destroyed and the mold and them being trapped somewhere and, just all the health implications of Katrina. And it really changed my practice.
There's a personal motivation for Dee, too.
I've been doing the health area of design for about 20 years. I've been doing the aging part for the past 10 to 12. And that's because my dad is in care for late-stage Alzheimer's. And my mom is his caregiver. And up until about 3 years ago, she was his caregiver in their apartment. She would call me at like 2 a.m. and they'd be on the floor. He would have had a fall and pulled her down. So I was worried about him having a fall, but I was also worried about her as the caregiver.
One of the places Dee's work comes together is a project called Second Story Collective. It's part housing model, part arts community, part public health intervention. The work began in Drexel's Writers' Room, a university community literary arts program. Writers' Room is a diverse, intergenerational collective engaged in creative placemaking, a process that aims to shape resilient communities with the arts at their core. Second Story Collective was born when a West Philly community member approached her Writers' Room collaborators with life-changing news.
A participant in Writers' Room, her home was sold out from under her, sold to developers right out from under her. So there was also this like incredible gentrification universe starting to happen. And then at the same time, there was this push by the university to really change the way we approach community. And I've always been a community-oriented researcher and practitioner. The Second Story Collective started when Writers' Room and multiple other people came together and said, let's really think about how people can age and stay where they are. What if we could create housing for artists that are already creating together? What if these older artists and these students who are already making art together could live together? It was a 6-year effort to understand gentrification, displacement, place-keeping, place-making. How does arts making in Mantua drive place-keeping in Mantua? And that became Second Story Collective and intergenerational living.
Through the Second Story Collective model, an older adult gets to stay in their home. A younger person moves in. They share space, they share stories, They support each other socially, financially, and in many unseen ways.
My role is once the house has been selected and the elder has become part of this program, I now refer to myself as the retrofit lady. One of the big things is falls. So trying to prevent anything that would cause someone to have a fall in their home. A major percentage of people who have a fall over the age of 65 don't come back from the fall in the same way. If they break a hip or if they injure themselves, they don't then get that same mobility back. And then you can have that cascade of different health issues that occur because you had a fall. Let's say you no longer are comfortable walking as much. You're going to walk less. You're going to gain weight. You're going to be slower. You're going to have a harder time getting around the house. You might have another fall. So we want to prevent that. That's the first thing. So any kind of transitions in the floor, materials in the floor, broken stairs, anything that might cause a fall in the bathroom or in the kitchen, anything that's hard to reach. Number two, I think, would be preserving the quality of life. So we like to walk through with the person and see how they're using their home and what makes them comfortable and what's making them uncomfortable. How can we eliminate some of those things? And then how can we make sure that they can see what they need to see, get what they need to get, and do what they need to do?
But Second Story Collective also has another set of needs to accommodate, those of the university student moving in. And that overlap of stakeholders actually drives sustainable design solutions.
While those things seem like they're more for the younger person, they actually contribute to the placekeeping. Because if that younger person moves in, then the elder person gets support, but they also get some rent. So it helps them keep their home longer, and it maybe will give them the resources to pay more attention to their health. Mutual mentoring occurs. So the younger person mentors the older person mentors the younger person. And the self-efficacy that someone builds through that is also shown to be supportive to health. The student and the elder also go through programming and arts making together. So it's really a wraparound program that is about art making, placekeeping, which is keeping people in their community, aging in place, and retrofitting the aging housing stock.
Health and well-being, like design or any field of research, are not fixed. They're ongoing, intersecting, and iterative.
So when I graduated from architecture school in the mid-90s, I say this to my students all the time. It was possible for the person I worked for to design a house without any collaborators, design the house and have the contractor build it. As a practicing architect, I would never do that now. Never. Everything has complexity to it now. So it's not just that we're in a more complex environment in terms of climate and in terms of people's needs, but we're also in a much more complex environment in terms of what we put in our spaces and services. Our society really thinks that there's a silver bullet answer to everything. And, there's not. Many of our problems are so complex that there isn't going to be one answer and there isn't one problem. And so it's really important that you invest in that problem definition phase, even though it can feel like, well, why are we still talking about this? Or why are we still doing sessions? We understand this. Yeah, but every time you go to the table, you're going to learn more. And every time you learn more, it's going to maybe change the way you were thinking you should design. Problem definition is the starting point, but I feel like it happens all along the project. I'm still doing problem definition, even though I've developed an answer. I'm still changing the question and adjusting the answer based on that change. And that's because we're humans and it's a complex environment. Like humans going to human, right? But then also there's a complex environment that we're operating in.
Working in real communities also means rethinking how research is conducted.
We're starting to come up with an evaluation protocol for the Second Story Collective universe. When you do this kind of community engaged work, you have to be very careful how you tack research on, because this is a community that's been overstudied. You can't just be like, fill out this survey, right? Because why would they tell us again what they need or what's happening? How we evaluate is very qualitative. It's very much observational. And I think one of the things that people don't always understand for creative designers and researchers is that observation is huge. I know that many of the folks I've worked with, there's no fall monitor in their house, but I kind of keep tabs to know if they've had falls, if they've had health issues since the renovations have been happening. How we do that without medicalizing or over-researching, that's the push-pull of the work that I do.
This community-based participatory research has informed a measure known as the Mantua Creative Standard for Aging in Place, which Dee and her partners use to create reporting and guidance for the retrofitting work. Creating a standard like this has opened up the potential for piloting the second story approach in new communities.
The MCSAP, I'm happy to say, it's actually caught on because I am piloting it with Bancroft, which is a autism provider in our region, one of the largest, an autism care provider. They have a 50-plus aging residence where people with autism and intellectual disabilities live, and I'm working with them to use the MCSAP to improve their amazing facilities. And then I'm also working with Casa Farnese, which was the first HUD Section 8 housing building in the city of Philadelphia. I've been working with them to see how we can improve their units as well. So it started with Second Story Collective, but this idea that you're going to maybe create health supportive aging in place spaces has branched out for me in my lab. The other collaboration that I have is a small in-home growing unit to provide fresh food and green space to people's homes. And we've been testing it also with Bancroft with their older adults with autism and IDD. This is a small unit that's compostable, it's inexpensive, it's simple, it has no mechanics, no wires or anything, and you grow herbs, microgreens in it. So that goes hand in hand with the aging in place piece because it's about healthy food in the home, healthy food in your environment, but then also there's a concept called biophilia, which is about our need for nature, right? And so for me, that project, which is called Garden Fresh Home, is the center of the biophilic and biodesign pieces of what I do. It also involves a microbiologist named Dr. Shivanti Anandan, who's my main collaborator on that project. So when I first started operating in the health and design place, it really felt like designers were kind of giving design to the sort of science, technology, engineering, maths, health, and STEM folks, like that they were having projects that design could bring something to. I think what's changed, and this is something that I advocated for a lot, is that designers are at the table. The project is not driven by STEM and health. The project is driven by the collaboration. And so I think many STEM and health folks have come over to that way of thinking about it. When I first started at Drexel, it felt like, oh, you're a designer, you can make my things look good, right? And now people really understand that it's a problem definition process that needs to occur collaboratively. I think you need to collaborate with people who understand that. I also think you need to collaborate with your community, with your partners, with your people who are helping you define and solve problems. One of the areas I would like to expand my work into is in climate preparedness. I've recently, in the past 2 years, been a faculty liaison with the Environmental Collaboratory, which is directed by Maddie Stanislaus. And through them, I'm getting a really great education in climate preparedness for underserved communities. They have a Philadelphia Climate Justice Collaborative group that actually goes and convenes community to talk about climate and policy. I'm super interested in that because I want my elders to be able to stay in their homes. And if they are going to have a heart attack because it's too hot in their home because of climate, or if their home is going to be flooded because of extreme weather, we need to deal with that. So that's another aspect of collaboration that's kind of coming into the work for me.
I asked Dee to give you some homework this week.
Observe your space and how you're using it, and think about what are the consequences of that. If you live with your parents, observe the space and try to understand, are there places that could be better for them? I mean, I'm half Egyptian, so like my relatives would like have 2 rugs on top of each other that overlapped weirdly in a space because they couldn't decide between them. And I've had to be like, get rid of those rugs because they're going to trip over them. Try to find a way to observe your space and understand it, and think about how you could change it simply to make it better for yourself, so that you don't fall, so that your parents don't fall, so that everybody's comfortable, and try to see if there's a way to get more light or more nature into your space. We're always trying to bring more nature and more light into spaces so that people have those benefits as well.
Imagine a place where people of different races, religions, genders, sexualities, and cultures live and create together. A place where we support each other, love each other, recognize ourselves in each other, where we are part of something bigger, making something bigger than ourselves, just by being ourselves. Those are lines from the Second Story Collective website. It's a sort of vision statement for the project and for the work that Dee Nicholas and her collaborators are doing every day. But it also describes the kind of world I'm really interested in living in. One that's collaborative, one that's equitable, one that's creative. What about you? Iterations is created and produced by me, Laurel Hostak-Jones, in partnership with the Antoinette Westphal College of Media Arts and Design at Drexel University. Our supervising producer is Brandon Johnson. Production support is generously provided by the Department of Cinema and Television. Special thanks to Michelle McHugh, Bill McNulty, Karen Kelly, and Joe Marcini. To learn more about Second Story Collective, visit secondstorycollective.org. And to learn more about Dee Nicholas's work and the design research for Health Lab, visit designcareforhealth.com. That's designcare, the number 4, health.com.